If we can get unmuted in the chambers, we will get started. All right, can you hear us, Sheila?
I can.
All right. The time is 7:07 p.m. and I will call the meeting to order. May we have roll call, please?
Mayor Reichel,
Here.
Pro Tem Hanrahan,
Here.
Trustee Bretnall,
Here.
Trustee Klassen,
Here.
Trustee Poston,
Here.
Trustee Seifert.
Here.
All right. May we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, be seated. All right, the first item on tonight's agenda is public comments. Persons desiring to make a public comment on items not on the agenda, please activate the raised hand function in the meeting program. Or Sheila, any phone calls or emails in regards to non-agenda items?
No, I did not hear from anyone today.
Okay.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. I don't show any raised hands.
Okay. I'm not sure if we have anybody. I think everyone here in public is here for agenda items, correct? Okay. All right. Moving along then, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. It contains the minutes of the June 10th, 2024 Board of Trustees meeting and the award of the bid for new windows and doors at Town Hall to Pinnacle Glass Company in the amount of $67,033. Would anyone like to discuss those separately or make a motion or have a question?
I have a question on, for Joe. I didn't see it in there, or maybe I missed it. What is their warranty on their Pinnacle Glass? They have a, was there a warranty? I didn't see it in there.
I didn't see it either, but I can check on that.
I mean, kind of nice to know if it,
Yeah,
kind
that's
of,
one of the reasons I went with them, because they're close and they do windows and doors, so one company for everything. But I will
Yeah.
check on the warranty.
I mean, just nice to know if it's a taillight warranty or if they have a 5-year warranty or whatever, so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I couldn't remember. Did we get a grant for some of this?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The only question I have is, do we have a quote for what the electrical is going to cost, since each window needs 120 ran to it?
We don't need 120 to it.
It says all necessary electrical by others, 120 volt needed at the head of each opening.
The door.
The door.
Oh, so that's for the door.
The
So,
slider
Door,
doors.
yeah.
so do we already have that
We
existing?
already
or-
have that with the
Okay,
existing door.
okay.
It's there with the
With the push button?
Yeah.
Okay.
the accessibility doors.
Doors, okay.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Trustee Seifert to approve the consent agenda as presented, and that was seconded by Trustee Clausen. All's in favor?
Aye.
All's opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Do any board members have any conflicts of interest with agenda items tonight?
No, sir.
Got none either. Any agenda changes tonight by the board or by staff?
Wasn't?
I got nothing. Here.
Nothing either? Okay. Next item on the agenda then is the interview for Board of Trustees vacancy and appointment of a board, appointment to the Board of Trustees. Let me scroll down through here and get to the applications. And we will just start in the order they are in our packet. So, Michael, if you'd like to come up to the hot seat, we will get started.
Thank you, Mayor Reichel. Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening.
For the tape, for the record, my name is Michael Berteau, and I live at 675 North 7th Street in Silt, Colorado.
Okay.
I'm currently serving the town on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and have been doing so for the last almost year and a half.
Okay. You want to start off with some questions?
Sure.
Start off with some questions.
Yeah, I mean, since somebody took the time to write this out, I'm going to start with one of these.
Go ahead.
Do you have any town improvement priorities?
Well, listening to what you just discussed and having read that memo that was in today's packet, there's all of that I would support just for the next year. It was former manager Jeff Lehman who said to me one day, we live in the same place down on 7th Street. And he said to me one day, I'd really like to get this public works section, this public works facility out of a neighborhood into another area, not too remote from town. And I thought that was a wonderful suggestion because it would give you a chance to perhaps expand and improve the park. And one thing that I know that probably gets the most use is that skateboard park. It's going from 9 in the morning till dusk and sometimes later, even if it's not supposed to. And there's some state-of-the-art skateboard facilities that are available if you had the land. You might be able to put a small Little League facility there, not the full-size one, but one that would be for first, second, and third grade kids. And you could, the ideas for recreation are unlimited if you had the land. What I would like to do is I'd really like to see the fire station get off of Main Street. If you want to have some economic development, that's a prime location. But I don't want it to move too far away. And again, I don't know what all your land acquisitions are where these two things should maybe come together. Public Works, fire, ambulance, police station are all something that you've talked about in the last 6 months. So those are some of the things that I'd like to see us work on.
All right, well, thank you.
Anybody else want to take?
How do you see what would you see yourself as a role as a trustee in town? And what would be one of the first things you'd like to really gung-ho and push forward that you see needs to be done?
Well, again, having read today's memo, you're going right into the budget session. And I've never been shy about looking over the budget, trying to save money here, spend a little extra money here where we need it. I think we need to probably, I would have asked today, if I'd been sitting where you are, I would have asked today, can we do all this list of projects and still give our employees their 2 to 4, 5% increase that they deserve from maybe, I'll have to see that history, but what they deserve for their recompense to working for the town. And it's a good job, and they should be paid well for it. So those are the kind of things, Jerry, that I would
I'd say
look
yes
at.
to his question. Yes.
Michael, would you tell us how would you see your role as a trustee?
Showing up is the first thing you got to do. You got to be at every meeting. You got to be at every planning session that we have for budget work sessions if they're all day, or you have to be on time and you have to be accessible to members of the community. So that's going to be the challenge for me. Having been here 5 years, I know most of you, but I don't know everyone else in the town. I know the people who work at the pizza place or at the taco stand, but I know people that I go to church with. And that's a considerable number of people that live right here in Silt. So, again, being the accessible not only to my team members, but also to my community is important to me as a role to play.
Okay.
I have 2 questions. Both are based on your answer to question number 2 in your application. The first one is, how would you plan to, quote, increase revenues for the water treatment plant, close quote?
Well, I think as was discussed at during that whole process, in order to increase revenues for the water plant, you have to increase some development. You need some development to buy the water. So you need to do all the things that were suggested as far as making the town look beautiful, making the website accessible to attract developers to come to our town that want to start a business, and then they're going to want to have water and sewer. New homes would increase revenue for the water or potential future sanitation district upgrades.
And the second question, again, part of your same answer, or part of your answer to the same question, question number 2, what is your vision of a, quote, revitalized, unquote, commercial district in downtown Silt?
Well, we have the same situation that I see in Rifle. We have this side of the river, and we have that side of the river. Again, I would like to see some of the undeveloped properties built that are on Main Street. I would like to see some of them that are perhaps single-family uses now be converted to commercial uses if someone was of interest to do that. Those couple of homes there next to the brick building that's in bad repair, those could be a lawyer's office. This could be a real estate office. That could be a dentist's office that I heard discussed today. The
I'll let 'em know you
conversion,
feel that way.
the conversion is not that difficult. Friends of mine worked with a dentist to remodel the building and then sold it to him back in Summit County. So I'm familiar with that. The other thing that I would mention, just because again it was on the discussion today, when I previously served on a town council in Breckenridge, we built a police station. But we had land. We had the luxury of having land that the town owned. So, I think the next role for this council going forward is to utilize all the land that you have in your bank right now and be looking to purchase other land. And for whatever municipal needs there may be in the future. And I'd want to support that.
Thank you.
Sure.
I guess in your previous life as town councilor, was there anything that you guys had, kind of like our water plant? Was there anything big that you guys had that you're like, okay, how do we do this? How do we do this without, the public coming after us with pitchforks and, things like that?
Early on, there was not me, but there was a council member that was elected with me at the same time. And he was a big-time golfer. And he really wanted a golf course, more than anything, because he wanted to play golf. And in order to convince us that, it didn't take much to convince us, I should say, that while we were a winter economy, we wanted to be a year-round economy. And, but we didn't have the water to irrigate. So hold on, please. We're not going to start drawing up the 18 holes till we know that we can purchase water and have water rights sufficient to irrigate, serve the town for the future needs. So that was the first big issue, was purchasing of water rights. And then all the other things kind of, and no pun intended, flowed from that decision.
All right, well, thank you.
One of your answers you talked about, you said to create an atmosphere of greater citizen involvement with planned town activities. What kind of activities are you talking about?
Well,
Or to be just getting more involvement in the ones that we already have?
I would want to do that, certainly. I love the farmers markets and having them not necessarily in a prime area of town, like when they were at the park last year. Kind of, if they keep moving further away from Main Street, they're not going to get the attendance that they need. So I would like to boost up that particular event. The Halloween and Christmas events are great, and they're very well attended. Again, I would like to see as much as possible use of our recreational facilities. If we can continue to keep fees down for athletic events for children, I think that's an important role for the town to play. It may seem like a subsidy to some, but I think it increases involvement. And it's certainly something that the citizens right now are happy with. The town cleanup is an event I would like to see to see grow. Currently, we just take care of waste, yard wastes, tree limbs, things that just show up on a yearly basis. But I'd like to see us actually kind of get a group day during that week when we could go about the town in other areas where there's trash that just nobody ever seems to, everybody drives by and nobody seems to do anything about. So I would like to see the cleanup day as an expanded, more community event, instead of just the people that, that have some farm waste they want to get rid of or tree waste. And there's plenty of it, there's no doubt about that. One thing, and to go along with that, one thing that I would support is run the street sweeper more often. We have all those elms that put out so much debris, and it just seems to collect on the side of the road. I think we could do a better job of making our town look better with the street sweeper out a little more often.
I guess your answer to question 8, could you elaborate more on that? And question 8's, what do you think the town's responsibility is in overseeing and regulating residential and commercial development?
Now, nobody else is going to oversee it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
The town needs to update their codes. The town needs to update their master plan and their, and we talked about it today, Title 16, Title 17 in the development code. Those things need to be updated. We can't, and building codes in particular, we can't rely on building codes that are too far in the past. We need to be updated so that people's insurance doesn't go sky high because you're using older codes to build dwelling units, as an example. So, the town's priorities, the town's role in overseeing development has got to be the main thing that you do. As far as controlling the business within your town, if you want to have good revenue streams and if you want to have quality developments that attract other quality developments. So as we look at the Rislenda project, we want that to be a A1 class blue ribbon project. And then maybe down the road, some other people want to do as good a project or feel the need to say that can make some money in this town. That's what they need. That's why all the only new restaurants are taco wagons. And I go to all of them. I love tacos. But we need a new restaurant in town.
Yeah, thank you for that.
As it relates to code revision and the hot topic right now, affordable housing, what's your just overall view on the topic?
Well, after what the mayor said,
Loaded question.
What's that?
Your vote's the same as my vote on this.
I understand, Mayor.
I know
That's
it's
a
a loaded question.
that's a really tough question because if it's employee housing, it should be the same development code. I don't know that you necessarily have to change the code of how you build a structure, walls, roof, foundation, the whole building, just have it be different for employee housing. It's not any different. It's the same for employee housing as if I'm building a fourplex for Jerry Seaford. It's the same code. But there are other ways to encourage employee housing and not just by easing up on the code. I don't ever want to step back on the code. There are other ways that, if you want to attract employee housing, it might be that the things that you control are the things that would make a difference in the building of a project, water and sewer. Those are the things that are the most expensive going on into the of a project, of a housing project or of an employee housing project, whichever it is.
Mr. Mayor, you have reached your 15 minutes for this applicant if you care to continue.
Okay. I don't have any
No, you're
questions. Everyone asked great questions, so anything
Good.
Good.
better than anyone's mind? No?
No, I'm
Okay.
good.
Thank you for applying.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Michael?
Okay, we'll scroll
I'll
down.
leave that out for you.
Yeah. Next up is Kimberly Engelhardt.
Oh,
Good evening.
oh.
If you just want to state your name and record, or name and address for the record, then we'll get going.
Hi, my name's Kimberly Engelhardt. I usually go by Kim. My address is 1959 Morningstar Drive here in Silt, Colorado. And I've lived there for about 3.5 years.
So I guess I'll ask you right off, what would be, if you got on as a trustee, what would be one of the priorities you would like to see happen? Or accomplishments, I guess, in the town?
Well, I'm originally from Glenwood Springs, and I have a lot of history in hospitality, and I grew up in a hunting family, and I'm very outdoorsy. So for me, the conservation and the environmentalism, I think, is something that benefits tourism as well as hunting, as well as the quality of life for the local people. So that's something that I always want to encourage, whether it's an urban forest type habitat model that they have, or a recycling center, things like that. You know, any kind of fest that promotes dandelions, or you know, anything that's community involvement and sort of making it fun and capitalizing on, I think, something that's our biggest asset.
Okay, thank you.
I guess, what do you think the town's responsibility is in overseeing and regulating residential and commercial development?
Well, I think that we live in a great spot and change is inevitable. And I think that having grown up in the Roaring Fork Valley, I have seen the change occur for better or for worse. And I think that we have a responsibility to use our leverage wisely when we have swell in people wanting to come live here, or a chance to get as much revenue as we can, but I think we have a responsibility to do it in a way that doesn't leave the local people feeling like they don't have access to what we have anymore.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just repeat my question. Kim, how do you see your role as a trustee?
I guess, so I have the hospitality background, and I love everything that this community has to offer. So I guess I'm an enthusiast, first and foremost, of this community, and I love the live music, the rafting, the fishing, everything that we have. And then I did work in the hospitality industry, which that's sort of my passion in a way, because I love sharing that with people and then saying, okay, that was fun, go home now. And then in addition to that, I do have some experience in the field of law. I've been an attorney for about 13 years.
What area of law?
Child welfare, actually. So it's pretty intense. And that's not the fun part necessarily of my life, but it does give me some insight on how a board is run. One thing I didn't put on my application, but I've been sort of a part of the local best practices meeting for the 9th Judicial District for the child welfare systems. So I work with the judges and the guardians ad litem, who are the child attorneys, and just different people to try and get resources, connect people with resources in the community. So whether it's housing, literacy, helping people learn how to fill out job applications, all of these things that's sort of putting back into the community, and also seeing how it's easy to say, well, why don't you get that done, versus actually being on a board and having to deal with the budget constraints and all of those different things. So I think kind of just a long story, not so short, just kind of a local who I think in several different ways I could probably be helpful. I have goals, but I also try and stay fluid in my thought process. And I'm trying to be very quick to say, I don't know the answer to this. I need to educate myself, or look to people who know.
What do you believe could be a concern or issue facing this board?
Growth, like crazy growth that, we need to try and figure out how to harness and maximize to its fullest potential. Along with the growth is going to come, crime and different things and housing issues. And are we going to build, what kind of affordable housing are we going to build? Are we going to have a bunch of problems later if we don't put some thought into that on the front end? So.
All right, thank you.
Any recent board decisions or policies that you were opposed to? And if so, I'm curious as to why.
I'm not a big fan of the dollar stores. And that's because I think that they are less likely to put money back into the community. I think that a local business owner is more likely, if they live here. And also, I think, just the products they sell, I don't think necessarily lend to a better quality of life. I've seen some mountain towns who were really trying to prevent unsightly growth, and they put in like a no neon rule, which I think is a little extreme, but and I'm more moderate than that, certainly, but I don't think it's our best look. I also think that we're going to keep growing, and it's going to be a drop in the bucket overall, once I realize that they're going to be there either way. It's like, so I think the board does a great job overall.
You're just saying that because we're all here.
I mean,
One other question that's really a follow-up on Trustee Poston's question, specifically being a mediator. How do you feel that skill that you have benefits the Board of Trustees as we face all these issues that we've been discussing we'll be discussing with all three of you?
yeah. Well, I'm trained. I mean, the legal field, you have to learn to see both sides of the argument. Certainly. But then with mediation, when you're an attorney, you kind of grab one side and you advocate for it so vigorously. But then as a mediator, you really have to see every side and just sort of sit back and acknowledge that you don't get to change that person's perspective. They're always going to have that perspective, you're always going to have a voice of agriculture in your community, and you don't get to change them to be something that they're not, and you just have to sort of acknowledge where each person's coming from and what their needs are, I guess.
But it won't impact your ability to make decisions when the moment arises.
No. I mean, my personal opinion, I think I can certainly assert that, but I also try and have it be educated and sensitive to other people's needs, especially if I'm in a fiduciary capacity where I'm entrusted with the stake of everyone in the community, not just mine. So, but I certainly have an opinion.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts on economic development in the town?
Oh, I mean, I think one thing, like I talked about, is sort of the local business owner I think we should give bonus points for local businesses because they do automatically reinvest into our community. And I think it's going to help us resist homogenization and maintain more of a authentic aesthetic as a town. So that's
Right.
important to me.
Thank you.
I just had one question you put in here on the commitment. And you kind of made it mention virtual meetings would be easier, but either way, do you think you can make the commitment to meetings being here? I mean, you had virtual would be better, but we prefer in person if we can, so.
Yeah, and I just didn't know, honestly. I hadn't watched the broadcast or anything, so I didn't know how they were run. And so with the best practice meeting, for example, it's, there's that virtual option, but I'm sort of on the fringe with that. I'm not a sitting member. So if I commit to something like this, I would commit to being in person and coming every week.
Okay.
So, because candidly, if I was virtual, I might have a baby on my arm. I might not have the full attention, so I would be focused. I'd be present for this.
Okay. And I didn't get a chance to ask Michael this, but it seems like 3 years ago was the magic number for all of our applicants to move to Silt. So why Silt over, I mean, I grew up in Glenwood too, so I understand leaving Glenwood, but why Silt?
Right. Well, so first of all, that's when I purchased my house, or, we moved into this most recent house. But growing up in Glenwood, then I went off to college, and then I came back and was sort of around the valley. And just ever since then, it's just sort of been Silt for me. I just gravitated to this area. Been going, I don't know, I have a lot of friends in this town. A lot of people that grew up in Glenwood ended up living here. So the community is full of people I went to high school with. My husband as well. He was born and raised in Glenwood, so it was a nice fit for us. We have my brother, his brother, all are, tons of people. Very deep roots in this community. So Silt's the new Glenwood. I mean, no offense to Silt or anything. It's its own place, but
Glenwood 2.0.
it was a natural progression for me, I suppose, is the best way to say that.
Since you already made a notion on affordable housing, I'm not going to go ahead and go back to that question, but going back to some of the comments that we had on the previous interview about outreach to the community, how do you feel about if you are to be elected what would be your outreach approach to the community, and how is your overall feel about being a public figure and having that fiduciary responsibility to the population?
I mean, I think it would be fun. I like community gatherings, anything where there's days after it or a fest. I usually go, and I enjoy those things. I think we went to almost every farmer's market last year. I like talking to people. So if it's something where I had to go around and introduce, socialize and represent, then I'd be happy to do that.
Yes, and this board has been lately called particularly to be out there a little more, participating on separate committees and also participating on additional meetings that are open for the community. How do you feel about having that open as impossible availability according to your schedule, but having some kind of openness to those types of events?
I think I do. I mean, I don't want to take on a role in something where I don't feel like I have a stake in it, or I don't have any business being there. They just need somebody to fill the role. Whereas here, I feel like this would be a great fit. But I think that would be good. I have a lot of room in my schedule right now where I feel like I'm able to commit to this and just be open to whatever the needs are. I don't have an agenda as far as what I plan on doing. I just, try and keep things, keep Silt great the way, or just, make the most of what we have.
Great.
Do you have any improvements you'd like to see made to the town of Silt?
I would like to see the entrance to our town be a really beautiful tree-lined area with a thing that says like "Welcome to Silt, Gateway to the Rockies," and everything looks like a dude ranch. Like it's cute, and I think that would be nice. And the taco trucks are great, but maybe if we could just move them so they're not the first thing you see when you come into town. I don't know, and then it's like, I've done some of these meetings where it's like a pothole. How much does that cost to fix? So then you actually get down to brass tacks. I know it's a little more complicated than that, but I mean, if pie in the sky, that would be my first thing probably. Just because the entrance, we have the passersby. I worked in tourism. I feel like it would just, set us off on the right foot. Get the right kind of, like, people who really want to enjoy the beauty and respect the beauty. They don't leave their trash, attract that
Okay,
crowd.
yeah. Thank you.
Well, this is a lot of time.
Yep, that is our 15 minutes. Any final questions?
I'm good.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you.
Okay. The next step is Alana. That is your turn. Yep, come on up.
I'm bringing my phone up because I took some notes on here.
Okay.
So that if I don't want to forget what I was thinking about.
Okay, you can state your name and address for the record, and we'll get going.
So my name is Elena Hanks, and my address is 811 Grand Avenue, block that way.
Okay. All right. Are you starting us off again, Chris?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's see. Tell us your thoughts on economic development in the town.
I see room for more local businesses downtown, of various sizes. And I agree with Michael that I think it'd be really nice to have another restaurant downtown, fostering more like community hangout area. And I'm a small business owner, solo entrepreneur. I have a massage therapy business in Glenwood that I've had for 15 and a half years. And with moving to Silt, in the back of my head has been, one day, will I want to relocate my business here? Thus far, no. The majority of my clients live and work in Glenwood. But plenty come from Newcastle Silt Rifle to see me. But one of my thoughts about that is, if I were to look at that one day, what does the downtown area look like? What other businesses are there? Would it be conducive to having a holistic massage therapy practice? I know that since the time that I've lived here, I've seen businesses come and go downtown and relocate to other places. So I think there can be a way to support that growth for success of business owners and of the town and the offerings that are here. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. On that note, actually, because it's kind of related, and Kim brought it up, I don't know the background at all behind the second dollar store opening up, but when I saw that, my husband and I both, and some friends who live here, were like, what? There's a second dollar store opening up? Like, is the other one closing, or what's that about? Like, when you could see, like, what about just a local grocery market, or, something different than another dollar store. So,
Oh, thank you. Yes, I'd love to see a hardware store here.
yeah.
What do you see your role as a trustee?
I see my role as a trustee to support the growth of the town and whatever we're facing. I would see my role as coming in curious. I'd have a lot to learn. I've never been on a board of trustees before. I think that's a pro. I think there's pros and cons to that because I might come with some fresh ideas, fresh eyes. I like to think outside the box. I consider myself creative as far as problem solving or coming up with new ideas of ways to do things. So I would come with an open mind and ready to learn, while at the same time hopefully bringing some new ideas or building on current ideas. Mm-hmm.
Good, thank you.
I am a proponent of community building, and I'm skilled at bringing people together and creating community, and kind of have a passion for that. So some of my ideas about the town to foster or build on things that are already happening to create community here and for people to feel involved in the community, connected, get to know each other, and then invested in the town and what it looks like now and where it's going.
Thank you.
Given the current climate of housing prices, do you have any ideas that you would tell us on affordable housing or overview of how you would potentially approach that?
It's a challenge, as we all know. One of the biggest things that I talk or that I hear and the conversations I have with people is the cost of living in this whole area. I've known really lovely people who've moved to the Roaring Fork Valley, to the Colorado River Valley, given a couple years, and then realized they couldn't make it here. I've known people who've lived here for a long time who had to move away. And so I think affordable housing is really important, and intentional, sustainable development if it's a housing development that has outside investors, that somehow they're connected to the community, to Colorado, that they're not coming from, some other state where they're just not actually invested in our community. They're more interested in just making money versus what this community needs. I liked, and I don't know a ton about this, but I had read something, I can't remember if it was in the newspaper or in one of the town notices, about a proposal for a development for veterans here in town. I wasn't quite clear on where, but I liked the idea that I saw for that development about it being small homes with like a community center component for them. So I think that that's key in affordable housing too, is like, they don't have to be huge, Before my husband and I bought our house here, just over 3 years ago, we were living in Glenwood. Before that, I was living in Carbondale. But when we were looking to buy, we frequently had the conversation of, if we can't buy a home around here, where will we move and reestablish our businesses? And it was kind of like, let's give it our all to see if we can make this work. And I've been in the Valley since 1989, so thankfully we made it work. We bought a home that was within our means and that we put a lot of work into. But it makes me sad to see so many in other towns nearby us, the direction that they've gone with so many properties becoming Airbnb. Now, I use Airbnb all the time when I travel, but I think that there's regulations that need to be around that as far as how much of a hit it's taken on short-term rent or on long-term rentals or on potential properties that would go up for sale, as well as second homes,
Thank you, Alana.
You mentioned, in your application, in your response to question number 1, that you, quote, frequently step into leadership roles, unquote. Can you provide any specific examples?
Yeah. Well, one is having my own business. That's a big leadership role. And let's see, some years ago now, I created and had going for 3 years a women's empowerment group that we would meet monthly and do various kind of self-growth empowerment things. I am part of an informal Ultimate Frisbee group that plays Frisbee in Carbondale. And for a few years recently, I took on the role of being the leader of that group. I gave it over to someone else this year. This might seem like not a good example, but I think it's a fine example. Like, I just organized a huge family reunion for my dad's side of the family. So if I see things that I want to have happen, or a need for something, I'm not afraid to step into that role and see what can be created. A couple years back, maybe it was just last year, can't remember, when there were so many accidents, semi-trucks in South Canyon, in Glenwood Canyon. I wrote letters to the editor. I contacted CDOT. I wrote things on Nextdoor. I had I think it was like someone high up in CDOT call me and have a conversation for 20 minutes about my ideas of what could be done, as well as someone on the police force. And while some of these things, they explained to me what was already in progress. After I drew a lot of attention to it, some of these things were actually implemented. So whether it was in progress, whether I had anything to do with that or not, I drew a lot of attention to that issue and quickly saw some things changing. So those are some examples.
Okay. One more question for me,
Yeah.
and it's based on being a Silt citizen.
Mm-hmm.
What are your top 2 or 3 concerns as a young family and a relatively new homeowner?
Yeah. So one of them is safety of the town. I'm not quite sure if that's exactly the way I want to phrase it. Quality of life. In the time that we've been here, we've encountered some situations with some other residents that have felt unsafe. Domestic violence wise, drug related. We've, called the police various times. Haven't had to in a while, so that's good. So yeah, exactly. Haven't had to in quite some time. So that's one thing is, safety, quality of life of the town. Another thing is, actually, Michael had mentioned this. So I go on long walks with my dog all around, and I see a lot of trash. And so I think it'd be cool to have some community trash pickup days. Or when the ditch is dry, I see a lot of trash in there, from vacuums to small things to baby seats, car seats. And up on walking up 7th into Silt Mesa Road up there's just a lot of trash on the side of the road. So that. And I care about I don't know if this is really how the trustees would go about this, because I appreciate that in downtown, part of our attraction to where we bought was that we're not part of an HOA, but walking around, there's a lot of properties that just have junk. And I think that having some sort of a town building on the debris waste day, where it's also a toxic waste pickup day or drop-off day rather, or, and when or help people take things to the landfill or something, which I know costs money, but there's just old, refrigerators and dishwashers and just junk on people's properties that if someone was coming into town from somewhere else and thinking about if they want to establish themselves here or bring a business here, that could be a deterrent. At the same time, it's important to keep the small town feel.
And it's, Joe, the Tax.my.gov is still a good resource for citizens to be maybe communicating with the town when they see those types of issues. Because now we do have a code enforcement
Right.
person.
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
We are looking into issues like that, and that's
Yeah.
definitely like top priority. So we should see some of that be addressed as well, just
Yeah.
as a segue.
Yeah, totally.
I guess, other than the trash, or is there anything you'd like to see improved in the town of Silt?
Yeah, so unless I'm wrong, I don't think there's an indoor community gathering place for like events during the non-summer months. I love that there's a lot of outdoor events in the summertime. I think that's really important, but in the colder months, or even, in the summertime, just an indoor gathering place where people can hold events, where there can be, community potluck or a game night or, various things a contra dance, that if someone wants to go to something like that, they need to go to one of the other towns. I think it'd be nice to have something like that.
Okay, thank you.
We're approaching our 15 minutes, but I want to see, same thing,
Yeah.
3-year question. I know you mentioned housing prices,
Yeah.
but there had to be something else that brought you besides housing prices.
No, the charm of Silt. So my husband and I actually got married almost 6 years ago up on Silt Mesa at a property that used to be called Crack in the Wall Gallery. And so during that time, we spent more time in Silt than I had previously. And it's charming. It feels like it's representative of local people who've been here for a long time, hardworking folks who it feels, for lack of a better way to phrase it, more real than some of the way some towns of Valley of the Roaring Fork have gone. So feels approachable. Yeah. And it's beautiful. I mean, I love the outdoors, love to recreate, hike, backpack, paddleboard, camp, all those kinds of things. Yeah, it's peaceful. The open sky, I like seeing the stars at night. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Oh, I did want to mention, though, I wanted to draw attention to a couple things that would make me maybe not the best candidate of the
Okay.
three, because I want to be open about it, is that, well, I know, for instance, in the through the rest of this year, there's 2 meetings that I know for sure I wouldn't be able to be at because I'll be traveling. One is actually the next one, the second Tuesday in July, and then one toward the end of September. If the work sessions ever start at 5:30, it would be hard for me to get here at 5:30.
Okay.
There, that's my piece.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. No, thank you very much for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I didn't quite want to ask the 7th question, but I think that's a good thing to make a note of. The question number 7 for us was to keep in mind, if you're not elected today, there are other committees, and we appreciate all of you coming in and voicing your opinions and your ideas, and we want that, like, more and more. And there are committees out there that we open up constantly to the public, that we validate all of you guys' opinions. So if you are not chosen today and you're interested in participating, get a hold of us, Sheila, the town manager, and I'm sure we can find a place that you can help us serve within the town.
Yeah, thank you for reminding us of that. This is not the end.
Yes.
There's
No,
plenty of other options.
And open up, keep, an eye out. Space open up, things change, elections come up.
Right. Okay.
That's it.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, this is always the fun part. Got three people staring at us, but we
I
have to
know.
make a decision, so. I think all three great candidates, all good reasons why they should be on the board. It's always tough to choose, so.
It's always tough to choose, exactly.
Yeah.
And this is one of those instances where it's tough to choose.
It's easy when we have one person. but
Yeah.
it's, having three this time,
Y'all
which
couldn't
is
talk
great, so.
beforehand and just one of you show up? Come on now.
We can highlight things positive that would be for the board that we saw in each one of the candidates. What I saw in my perspective, one for Michael was, yes, he does have experience within the Planning and Zoning Committee. He has experience with the format and then, some of the code, and he does definitely bring a lot of value. From Kim, I believe that her working background in tourism and also having the background, working with, I can't describe as well as she did, but in the judicial system and, on behalf of children and being able to work with other people and at the time as a mediator capacity, but also having that overview and the background and being able to be assertive and make decisions for herself is a very strong point as well. And I think as the discussions start getting more heated with us on decisions that, they will get, it's an asset to have, think about affordable housing. We all have strong points of view that we bring from the public into the board. And I think one good quality there to have someone that's able to and trained to pick up on those, perceptions and being able to verbalize them and then make the decision for themselves. I think that's an asset. And for Elena, I think she's a super driven person. She's a go-getter. She wants something. She just goes in and makes it happen. She brought a lot of great points about the community. It sounds to me that she's very in touch with the community and she's very willing to work. But that's just my overall overview on what I picked up as the strength for each candidate today. I can make a recommendation. My recommendation would be between Kim and Michael, so for today's position. Respectfully.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be nice to
About
have
dates.
more women represented on the board too.
Well, I don't go that necessarily that way, but I go specifically on background experience and what so far it showed to me that could be presented as an asset to the board going forward.
I do feel it's important that the people up here represent the people out there. And 50% of our population is female. Qualifications notwithstanding. I agree with you that qualifications matter. But I do think more generally it's important.
A diversified board, that's what you're saying?
Yes.
People from different background and, okay.
My one concern about Michael is taking him off of P&Z. You're such a valuable asset there that our gain becomes their loss. And it's hard to get people to want to participate in that commission. So what are the downstream impacts of the decision we make tonight on that group that's also going to be facing a lot of big developers and important decisions that will eventually come up to us?
Mm-hmm.
But having attended a number of those meetings, I continue to be impressed with your knowledge, the way that you're so deliberate in the meetings and specific about your questions. I don't want to take that asset away from that group, knowing that they're already struggling to keep people in the chairs. That's my concern there. I think, as it relates to Kim, I think having a background in law and mediation, of course we have Attorney Sawyer for specific things, but more generally would be helpful. Mediation particularly would be very helpful. I think your answers to the questions were also a little more strategic than some of the other applicants, which I appreciate. Sometimes the things we think about and we have to decide, we'll never see the outcome or we won't be here when we see those outcomes. And it's important to think strategically even when you won't be around. With Elena, the idea that you're a small business owner to me is a huge plus. What did we talk about the last hour? We need to get more small business here. Well, we can ask her because she's doing it. And she's got the relationships to help facilitate some of that. So there's a very practical use case there. The concern with that, on the flip side, is as your business evolves and grows, can you continue to honor their commitment to this body? That would be a concern that I would have, because you got to go where the money is. That's something we all battle. And no one's getting rich being up here. Bad news, people.
I guess I'm going to say I'm going to be stingy that I think Michael would be a great asset to this board, and P&Z, to me, Michael's more of the hard and fast fact guy, and I think P&Z is more of the dreamer, visionary role in the community. So I think Kim and Elena would be great on P&Z because they have these great, big pie in the sky ideas and how to get things done and bring communities together, where Michael's more of, here it is, here's what's going to happen, and here's how we're going to make it happen. I do like Kim's background as a mediator, because I think that's, it's easy to sit on this board and not fully listen to both sides of the story. Your opinion versus the applicant, you don't weigh both those evenly all the time. So being able to have that skill is a great asset. And then Elena, I really think her story, business owner, bringing, having a family here is what Silt is. We are that family hub. That's what we are. We're the family hub of the valley. We have the best kid events in the valley, I think. So, unfortunately, this time we got 3 great candidates.
Good problem. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a great problem, but it is
Unfortunately,
unfortunate. So,
Yeah.
so I mean, to put it out there, my first choice would be Michael. Second choice would be Kim, and I would love to see Elena run for the P&Z point or seat that might potentially be open.
I guess I could start things off. I guess, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion appointing Michael Berteau to the Board of Trustees.
Okay. Would anybody like to second that motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Motion by Trustee Clausen to appoint Michael Berteau to the open Board of Trustees seat, seconded by Trustee Britnall. All's in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All's opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay. Can we have a roll call vote, just to be clear?
Mayor Reichel,
Aye.
Pro Tem Hanrahan,
Nay.
Trustee Seifert,
Nay.
Trustee Klassen,
Aye.
Trustee Britnall,
Aye.
Trustee Poston.
Nay.
It was a split vote.
Okay. So motion fails due to a tie.
Only we had another person.
Only
Oh,
another
wait.
person we
Oh,
won't
wait,
have.
hey, we have 3. Yeah.
Okay. So would
Yeah.
someone else like to make another motion?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to nominate Kim to the Board of Trustee position.
Okay.
I will second.
Okay. So we have a motion by Trustee Poston to appoint Kimberly Engelhardt to the Board of Trustees. That was seconded by Trustee Seifert?
No.
Or Mayor Pro Tem Hanrahan? Okay.
I've been called worse.
I heard,
No,
couldn't
whoa.
quite tell from down there,
That
so.
was me.
No, he said he's been called worse.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
All's opposed?
Nay. I guess I'm, yeah.
Motion
I
passes
don't know.
5-1. Okay,
Okay.
congratulations, Kimberly.
Yes, I do want to say, Michael, I'm extremely grateful for you and your work and everything that you do for the town. And please know that you have the utmost appreciation and respect, not only from me, but from the entire board.
Yeah.
We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Yes, we thank all three of you, yes.
And Alana, if you're interested, there is a seat open on our Vail board also. It's a once a month meeting that it's an important work that we're missing people on right now. And our last meeting, we actually weren't able to do anything because we didn't have a quorum. So getting additional people on there would definitely be helpful.
Yeah, I've looked at that one also. They meet at 5:30, which is tricky for me, but I'll relook at it because I do know that that's important.
No, the town, what are
So
your
then your
office hours now, the
strategy-
town?
Strategic committee.
7 to 5:30 still? I say if there's a way we can move it a little bit later, but it makes it hard.
Do you want to mention it?
If I could get a word in
Of course you
Okay.
can.
There is also an opening for citizen members on our newly created Strategic Planning and Town Code Committee. But that one is going to, at times, be pretty labor intensive in terms of a couple meetings a month, similar to being on the board. And typically those, we haven't had a meeting yet, but we'll work with the committee members to find the right time. So if you were to be interested, maybe we have to set our meetings at 6 o'clock so that you're able to attend.
And virtual attendance may be a possibility.
And virtual
Not
attendance
definitely,
is a possibility.
we don't know because it's just starting.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Kimberly, if you'd like to come up, we're going to swear you in right now.
And you can have a seat.
And then you get to join us for the rest of the meeting.
Put you right to work.
Where do I go? You can go up front. Oh, yeah.
If there's, yeah.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Kimberly Ann Engelhardt,
Do affirm that I will support
do affirm that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Colorado
and the state of Colorado
and the laws of the state of Colorado
and the laws of the state of Colorado
and the charter and ordinances of the town of Silt,
and the charter and the ordinances of the town of Silt.
and will faithfully perform the duties
I will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of trustee
of the office of trustee
upon which I'm about to enter
upon which I am about to enter
and to the best of my ability.
and to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Sign that, get that back to me by end of night.
Okay, are you in order? All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Take off if you'd
Alana.
like to, yeah.
Oh, you're left-handed? Wait, we gotta change it. This isn't gonna work.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
Maybe if I
Another lefty, that's what.
I'm in the right spot.
That's
I'm
what I'm
left-handed
talking
too,
about.
yeah.
We're talking about even representation, so more lefties.
We have
Even
three
though
on
we're
that,
lefties.
three now.
Diversity, that's what I'm talking
That's
about.
always overlooked.
Jerry, you're going to have to
Always.
move over here and swap positions.
Yeah, actually, we have the lefties over there.
Full disclosure, I cannot.
Matter
use
me where I'm
left-handed
at.
scissors. They don't work for me. I don't know why, but I can't use
I
left-handed.
feel your
scissors.
pain with the scissors.
Scissors. Okay. All right. Next item on the board is the discussion regarding per diem for those participating in special committee meetings.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. This is an item that came up as some of our difficulties over the last couple of months in terms of recruiting people to be on boards, commissions, et cetera. Comments were made that perhaps, we might want to look at compensating the special committee members for attending meetings. We did reach out to our neighbors, and none of the other communities at this point are compensating anybody other than their planning and zoning committee members. Everybody is pretty much in the same boat. I did talk with a couple of the communities nearby, and they're interested to see what we might do about it. We would be the first, at least in this part of the valley. And so we're just looking at it from a perspective of whether there's an appetite by the board to look at something in terms of a per diem compensation for committee members, or not. If there is, we would look at it from a budgetary perspective for 2025. If not, it just goes by the wayside.
the way I look at it, if people are just taking time away from their work and coming over here and they're not getting paid for that time, to driving time, yes, there's a great value of just serving for serving. And again, we could be pioneers in potentially starting something like this. Just, I'm somewhat in favor. I don't think it needs to be an extreme level compensation, but something that would symbolize the level of effort of taking that time off and being here, especially for those committees that you are being required to be here more often. But then should we restrict to certain types of committees too? And then that gets into the budgetary time. But as an overall, we do need to increase participation, public participation. And we could try. And if it doesn't work for next year, and if that still doesn't solve the issue, it's not like we would have to continue doing years onward.
Is there a max that trustees and P and Z can make a year? If you're gonna do a P addendum, would that be include, I don't know, I'm just saying.
That would, I mean, that's entirely up for discussion of whether you would include the Board of Trustees as
That's, I mean, that's what I'm getting,
part
I
of the
don't know where.
per diem compensation. I believe, and sadly, Attorney Sawyer couldn't be here this evening, but I believe if we started paying per diem for committee assignments for board members, that may have to require a next election before you would be
I mean, that's what I was just getting at. I didn't know where we were
for
going
that.
with this.
Yeah, but for citizen members, that would, just.
Citizen, P, would that include
Public-
P and Z too then, or they would just?
Well, the P and Z is already compensated $100 a
Right.
month. They have not had more than one meeting for quite a month for quite some time. They did used to have 2 meetings.
Yeah.
And, we did discuss whether if we did go to a per diem type compensation, whether it would be per meeting or per month. And I would argue it should be on the per meeting side, not the per month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would like to see P and Z get a raise. I don't want to sort of get off on a tangent here, but the amount of time, have you seen their packets? Like, their meeting may be 3 hours long, but they're spending number of hours preparing, and it's not easy reading. And then they've got follow-ups after and other conversations. The reality is, for $100 a month, they're putting in 10 hours of work, 8 hours of work. That's less than minimum wage.
We've already doubled it. P&Z used to be $50.
That's criminal.
Well, it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that we shouldn't look
It's
at
not-
changing it
shouldn't look
again.
at
Yeah, no, I'm just saying,
Again,
we've already
And I've sat in on a
increased
couple of these
Well-
meetings recently, they're complicated. More generally, I think per diems should be allowed for the public. I'm all in favor of them. I said this last meeting, we keep waiting for people's better angels to speak from the other shoulder and for them to show up. They haven't shown up. So we need to come up with a better incentive. And even if it's $50 per meeting,
That's what I was thinking.
that's a fair amount. Everybody's time has value. When we're asking everybody to volunteer for these things, we're assuming their value is literally zero, and it just isn't. We certainly value it more. Why don't we pay them for it? That's my stance.
Yeah.
I think we just got to align better incentives.
Yeah, and then I have a question, like the Vail Board, because it has a trustee on it, correct? Are you,
Correct,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing,
It's an advisory position.
Is
I'm
that
not a
part of
voting
your-
member of the
yeah,
board, but I'm there
okay.
to basically.
So I guess
they
that's
have
my question,
questions
yes.
To give the board, basically to be the board's voice on that.
Yeah,
board-
yeah,
on
so
that.
is that part of your trustee duties, or is that something different?
I consider it it's kind of a combination public service and trustee, because as a trustee, I feel like you have other duties that you get thrown in with that.
Yeah,
Things like, I mean, I have that, and then I'm also on the Garfield County Weed Management Board, and that's once a quarter. So, but I try to attend those meetings whenever I can. I don't make every meeting, because sometimes they just can't get off work.
Yeah.
Because it's during the day, it's one of those things. But I feel like that the board positions were already compensated relatively well. I mean, it's not, obviously, we're not paying our mortgages or anything, but I feel like that once you're in this position, you have other duties that kind of go along with that, and some of that is serving on some of these other committees. And I don't think we should get additional compensation for it, but I think the citizenry should. And then I
this is
definitely feel like that
These are elected or
Yes.
appointed.
Elected and
Ultimately
appointed
elected.
positions
So someone's
should not be.
volunteering
Yeah.
to make a long-term
Yes.
commitment.
Now, Vail Board's technically appointed, but that's a different situation. I don't feel like that's not P and Z. Because it's not just a volunteer where you just get to show up.
Yeah, so, yeah, and I agree with Town Manager Jim, and any increases for the board would require election. So
Yeah, it would be for the
this
next
would be
board.
basically for public committee members, or perhaps adding planning and zoning additional meetings, or change it for per diem, if that's a different conversation, I don't know, but.
And I would certainly add that you might consider giving yourselves a raise. It sounds terrible to do it, but I think
It's been a while.
it's been a while since the compensation for trustee and mayor has been changed. And
2014.
10 years.
so,
But bear in mind, you can't give yourselves a raise. You can certainly change the code to increase the amount, and then during the next election, those seats that are newly elected would get that raise. So it would take a couple of election cycles to get everybody on that new pay range.
correct. But I think there's looking at the total, let's entice people to be participatory. Something you may want to look at.
What's the right number, do we feel? I think I came up with the number $50 per meeting for public to participate in committees.
So, devil's advocate, if someone has to be paid as a public member to join a committee, are they doing it for the right reason?
Is $50 really gonna change their overall financial picture such that they would do it purely for the money?
I don't know.
No, but based on that, then why offer anything?
If the $50 doesn't make it matter, then
Yeah.
why does
I
$0 matter?
think it's a 5% shift in mindset. It's not, I'm gonna do it for greed. It's, I'm on the fence. Should I do it? Should I do it? I've gotta take time off of work or time away from the kid or some other obligation. This is that last 5% that turns a no into a yes. I don't think in and of itself, it's gonna fundamentally change someone's mind. But I think the folks, we went from 0 to 3 applicants this evening. I think we could have had more sooner if this were a public committee meeting. I think again, it's about aligning incentives. The way we're doing it now isn't working. So this is just an
Changing
attempt
strategy.
at aligning incentives. If, to Trustee Poston's point, if we're wrong, we're gonna find out quickly because no one's gonna sign up for anything or continue not to sign up. And then we'll go, okay, well, that didn't work. What's next?
Yeah, but how long did it take to get 3 applicants for the board seat? And that's more money than P and Z.
It was, I think we were about 6 weeks.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had to extend it, so.
Well, I saw 3 emails, and then, in all caps, and that caught my attention. But, and
We had
I
to
guess,
shift them.
I hear what you're saying, but I also think that, I'm certainly not here for the money. And I think if someone's gonna come, they might be like generally more like a high-functioning person who wants to help and make decisions and things. And so I don't know, maybe they'll be worried about it, putting them in a higher tax bracket or something, I don't know. But
On the fringe.
Yeah.
Well, and the next one is the website, so I was just gonna say, like, maybe we should work on a little more advertising on the website. Cause sometimes I don't hear about things as much as I would think. But other than that, I just wanted to say something because I'm new. So I felt like.
Well, I was
should
gonna
say
ask you,
something.
as a new person, like what made you make the jump to actually apply versus just thinking about it?
I had been thinking about it since I moved here, actually, and then it was like my schedule opened up, and then it was like, please, somebody apply. And so it was a combination of those things, you know. So, but I don't know. I mean, I know it's hard to get people to ever participate in anything like and stuff like this.
And with the Vail board, sometimes you'll go 2 or 3 months without even having a meeting too. So,
Are there any other incentives in lieu of money that we could offer? Again, just to try and stir up some
the pot.
interest. I'm open to any other ideas here.
Local businesses, gift certificates, or, no?
No, I think
No.
That would be preferential?
Well, the
There
thing with,
might be some ethical issues on
Okay,
that one.
I don't know, I'm just.
well, no, it's an idea, it's an idea, but I definitely see where you're coming,
Say
because
no.
it could be, where the restaurant's giving us that, and the next thing you know, they come before you for something, and, oh, well, I've been
Bingo,
giving you these
yeah,
gift certificates for the last 6 months.
No,
and
we're
now
not
I
gonna
get
renew
nothing.
your liquor license. Thanks for
Wouldn't
playing.
Get it for free, we'll
Well, no.
purchase it.
But that's still just
Uh-huh,
it,
yeah.
yeah.
So throw it out there, I'm just
No,
throwing
it's,
things.
all ideas are worth
Yeah.
discussing, we just, some, you just gotta be careful.
I have an idea of social media, of like, you know, using the Facebook page, for example, to say, wouldn't you like to come say something about this pothole instead of complaining about it later? Literally say that and you know, put it out there and really kind of be obnoxious about promoting these meetings and say this affects you because of this. And people, I think, respond to that. I think people might actually need that now. But I don't know. Just a thought.
And as far as compensation go, I don't know, we'd have to look into this too. I know in the olden days when my grandpa was on the Glenwood City Council, when you sat on the seat, they covered your $4 a month water bill.
yeah. Put you on the senior rate
an
for your water
offset
bill.
in lieu of
Offset
payment.
In lieu of payment.
I'm open to
Can't
that too.
offset water
Take
plant
$50
costs right now.
off their water
Water
bill.
bill, I don't know how
No, water plant.
accounting
plants,
error or
the expenditure
headache that
is
would be
really
for
high.
the billing department.
Yeah.
but,
Every penny counts.
you know, and it's not a, I hate to take $50 that we're supposed to be stewards of and pay it to a member of the public.
That's fair.
And just that perception with the public is, Bob sat on a meeting one time for a committee that he was supposed to be part of for 15 meetings, but he went once and made $50. And then Jill came and sat in and got $50. And like, is that gonna?
The town can't get anybody to volunteer unless they pay them.
Unless they pay
Yeah.
him, yeah.
No, I like the idea of an offset
So,
in lieu of cash.
lieu of cash.
That makes a lot of sense. Again,
Okay.
it's a way to
Good
align
idea.
incentives without that risk of perception.
Perception.
There you go.
So if you,
Mhm.
$50 for the meeting you attend,
As an offset
As an
on a
offset.
utility.
your town utility bill. Amy, if you can hear us, would that be a nightmare to do the accounting on?
It wouldn't be a nightmare. We would just have to set up a service essentially that would give a credit on the bill.
Okay.
And then it would just be where we'd have to make sure we had like a roll call sheet to let us know who showed up, who didn't show up, what meeting it was for, just so we could keep track of it. But no, it wouldn't be an accounting nightmare, no.
I
Okay.
like your idea.
It would, of course, take revenue away from the water fund.
We,
Yeah, can we do that?
to be the naysayer, we would need to compensate the enterprise fund for the cost.
So basically, you'd have to take and to have a fund to pay that to the water fund.
Yes.
Instead of just giving them, it wouldn't give them a discount, it would be, I mean.
Well, it would,
They would get the
They would
discount.
get the discount, but the general fund should be compensating the enterprise.
Somewhere there'd be a line item that is
Yes.
for meeting attendance,
Yeah.
and then that meeting attendance would pay their water bill, the $50.
Paid it, yeah.
And we would be creating a budget for it anyway, so.
Yeah, I mean, it
Yeah. It's all-
costs the same, but the enterprise fund shouldn't be burdened with the
With
cost
the
of
cost,
paying.
yeah.
for participation.
And we're not gonna run into, I mean, if we did it that way, we wouldn't have any issues with funding the water, wastewater too much out of the general fund to cause any issues?
No, it shouldn't.
I would hope not.
It shouldn't.
Because
It shouldn't.
you
move the
can
needle.
give 10% of the revenues.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if it's $3 million, it could be 300,000, and I'm hoping that we're
We
not
would have
paying
to have
people
a
that much.
bunch of committees.
Bunch of committees and a bunch of meetings, okay.
Yeah.
Record attendance.
I just know-
Everybody shows up.
I just know that occasionally we fund other things from the general fund of the water department,
Yeah.
wastewater department, so I don't wanna
No, good
cause
question.
any issues.
Is there a chance that someone from the public doesn't have a water bill?
They have to be a citizen of the town of Silt.
If
so-
they
Yeah.
if they live in an apartment, there's a chance that they
Chance that
would
they wouldn't
not
have a
have a
water bill,
water
yeah.
bill.
Yeah.
Paid by the property or an HOA.
Or if they lived in if they were in a rental, I guess, and the landlord paid the water bill for them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
then that wouldn't be.
It's a small number, but it's greater than zero.
Zero, yeah.
And what would we do in those?
Could we fund it from
Unlikely
the
rare.
budget fund account directly?
Well,
That's all, yeah.
I think it'd have to
You're-
be sold. That's one way of their way of compensating, and if you don't have it, then sorry. Please do it anyway, because,
sorry.
well, I mean, it's one of those things.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I'd be fine with giving P and Z a raise, but I'm just kind of more leaning toward no on this than yes.
And that's the other side is having a public member on these committees worth that cost. Most of these committees, we have, whatever they're talking about, we have several public meetings about it where they can come give their input.
And they're also noticed meetings a lot of times, aren't they? So can't the public attend those somewhat if they wanted to, or is that not? I'm not sure how noticed they are.
To Trustee Henry Hand's point is an approach that's changed, hoping to have that participation. And I think even if it's the opinion of one additional citizen, it's still, something that's coming from the outside. So it's not the opinion of the board that has been discussing. It's just someone new from the community that's bringing their fresh voice.
And we've talked about community engagement.
Engagement.
We talked about it multiple times tonight. This is a fairly cost-effective way to try and get more. It's one way of many, but it's specific to this case of committees. If I think it came up earlier anecdotally, people are doing X, Y, or Z on Facebook. This may, again, make that last 5% shift where they want to get in the room and actually participate in the process instead of heckling from the sidelines.
Mayor Pro Tem, sorry.
Yeah.
How many committees do we have right now that we would be reaching out for additional public participation?
We have Park and Recreation, the Vale Board, and Strategic Planning and Town Code.
So 3.
So 3. And there is anticipated to be 1 public member on Park, Recreation, and Culture. I think Vale has 2 public members, or is it
No,
more?
Vale Board is all, the voting members are all public.
All public.
Because Sheila,
There's 4 of them.
yeah, there's
4,
supposed to be
okay, so
4.
there's 4.
Because Sheila, Chief, and I all attend as advisors.
And the Strategic Planning and Town Code Committee would have 1.
So $300.
So we're talking 6 people.
Actually, I think Vale is 6 when it's full board.
So 8.
So aside from the Vale Board, what these committees are doing is what this board has been voted in or appointed in to do. The public has chosen these members to be their voice at these meetings. That's why you vote a board in, because not we can't get the input of every single person to make a decision.
We can't have an election every time we decide something. It'll take
Decide
too long.
something. That's why we're here. Do I want public involvement? Yes, but I want them here at these meetings giving us their input. That's why we have public meetings. That's the whole purpose of it. You have a public meeting for the public to be part of. So, I'm not, I threw out the idea of giving them a credit on their water bill. I think that's just a way to fund it if we go that direction. But I don't want to pay members of the public to sit on a board to do what or to be part of a board that what we were elected to do. And I don't want that to make it sound like I'm silencing the public, because I want them, every week when we come to this thing, I want 50 people here
Yeah, what do we do? Pay the public to be here?
to come sit in this room with us. If you show up to a meeting, we'll give you $50 when you come in the door. I know it's more of a commitment to show up to an ongoing board committee, but I just don't think, I think that it's not worth paying him, and I think it's a horrible perception to the public for us to be paying public people to be doing what we were elected to do.
Another idea, as other towns were doing, they would do one monthly committee meeting open to the public. They would serve donuts and coffee, and it would be an agenda meeting with the town manager or the interest parties on that. However, it is structured, but ultimately, this particular, I think, was the town of Golden. They end up having like 22 consistent people that would come into those meetings, and they would go over like all kinds of different issues. So, maybe it's not assigned to just one committee and being paid for that position, since we are just throwing ideas out there and developing and, bouncing those ideas. Maybe having that monthly and addressing the issues from the committee during those meetings, and maybe serve something, to the public.
We could definitely try that. I mean, be similar to like our open
Be like-
houses that
yeah.
we have, though, that unfortunately, a lot of times the open houses aren't attended a whole lot. And so, but it became a consistent thing, kind of like we're talking about having like coffee with the trustee or whatever, is having it set up where obviously we couldn't all be there, but if 1 to 2 of us were able to attend, and we rotated who was there, so it wasn't a commitment one person had to make all the time. That might be a way for some more community engagement and get some of that.
And the cost of that would be the time of the trustee and the town employee that would be attending, plus food,
Some juice and some whatever.
some juice, and just
Good idea.
making ourselves available to having those presentations and then discussions, just informal, perhaps. I don't know the layout, but just another idea out there, since the paying doesn't seem very receptive to all of us at this time.
No, it's just, a product of today's society. Nobody wants to do anything unless they're getting paid for it anymore, is what it seems like.
I think the perception would be bad with the money thing. I think donuts would get people in the door, and without creating that perception of, I think that's a really good idea.
No,
Like a monthly community member meeting where you get free donuts.
and really advertise that in media. And
Sure, we can discuss it and come up with a plan.
And then maybe from those meetings, we would be able to locate individuals and talk to people about some of those board positions and different seats that are open, and be able to gather people instead of dragging them from the dog park or wherever we happen to find them.
Don't meet me at the dog park. That's the takeaway.
Don't meet Derek anywhere, because he will rope you into something.
Hey, I saw him last night at the dog park. He didn't rope me into anything.
Well, he knows you already.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I think the other part we did hit on with this discussion, though, is I think we should definitely have an upcoming discussion about P&Z pay.
Yes,
And
please.
the Vail Board is members of the public, but they're appointed by
The board.
us.
Yeah.
So that one, we're appointing people. So I feel different about them being appointed to a board by us than I do a citizen of the public joining a committee.
That's almost becomes like P and Z. It's a similar thing to P and Z.
Yeah.
But it's just not as regular because there
Yeah.
aren't meetings every month.
I would have argued you would have been appointing all the citizen members to the various standing committees too.
You just took the word
We
out
wouldn't
of
just
my
let
mouth.
whoever showed up show up. It
Right.
would be,
Right.
there'd be some kind of
Right.
selection.
Yeah,
process.
they're all effectively appointed positions.
Positions.
I think that, I'll just summarize the takeaway. You want to discuss P&C compensation. You don't want to do anything with any citizen members on a standing committee.
Because I don't think we should have, like I said, this board's been elected to do what the committee's doing. So I don't even think we should have a public member sitting on those committees. I think they have an option at public meetings to give us their input on. If we're discussing parks, they 100 citizens can come in and tell us what they think about the parks instead of just one citizen giving us their ideas. What's the difference between making this an 8-member board and just appointing somebody else?
Doing something new and maybe attracting those community members to participate. It's just really changing the approach and doing something different because we have had empty seats. So it's basically just trying something new. But to your point, I understand the paying portion and I concur. However, coming up with something, and I know we're a little over the time, I think, but yeah.
Yeah.
I like donuts.
And if the committee didn't exist, it would be
doesn't
all
like
of us anyway, you know?
The whole idea of the committee structure is just they do legwork
Refine.
It's to help.
before you guys make the decision on what the final is going to be. And that's fine, and we can move away from having any citizen members on any of those standing committees.
And that's just my
If
my
that's,
opinion.
if that's the
That-
direction of the board.
Yeah.
I think the argument against that would be the use of those committees is also being more transparent about the process. Largely when it shows up here, the decision's about to be made, the discussion has already happened, we've gotten our packets, we've got at least a general idea of where we stand on the issue. I think part of transparency in government is things like citizen-run committees or citizen-driven committees. I don't think you're entirely wrong or entirely right. There's a gray area there where everything gets done by elected officials. Okay, but we can't do it all in the privacy of our own minds and in these chambers that nobody bothers to come to. We could argue that democracy is participatory, but I think there's something to be said for transparency. And showing up here twice a month may not give them the full view of a particular issue. We saw it with the Western Slope Veterans Group that came to P&Z. Their last meeting was very well attended, but a lot of it was catching them up on some of the information because they saw the packet when it was published, and it was massive, 144 pages or something. And if you're John Q. Citizen going through 144 pages of P&Z, it's an insomniac's delight.
Yeah.
Now, if I can give you a little peek into the next agenda, we do have the P&Z, an ordinance coming before you, doing some housekeeping to the P&Z portion of the code. It would be a good opportunity to increase that pay at that time if you decide you want to go that route.
Okay, so I think maybe before that discussion, at the next meeting, we have a pay discussion? Or just add it into that agenda item?
We could just add it into that agenda item.
And we can change P and Z's pay without election or anything. It's just ours that would have to be, the board seats would have to have an election.
Correct.
Okay.
I do like the donuts idea, just because I like donuts. But it's how do we get people
Consistency, if
to
we,
come to the donuts? And
Well, we'll come up with some catchy, you know,
I like Kim's suggestion, use social media.
yeah.
Come on out, we'll give you an update. Did we mention there's donuts?
Give us your opinion and have some free donuts.
Right. It's a powerful incentive.
powerful incentive, yeah.
You get a free donut if you give us your
Oh,
opinion.
whoa. When I have a friend who is on a P&Z up Valley and she's in real estate and she's like, and she just generates all kinds of enthusiasm but she's like always on social media doing stuff. And I don't know if I have the energy to do something like that, but if somebody did, it would be really cool, you know. Something like that seems to generate a lot of attention.
Nicole has a little bit of that energy somewhere, right?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. It's been sucked out.
Sucked out.
It's been developed out of her.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll work on trying to figure something out
Okay.
from that perspective.
Okay. Okay, do you have enough direction after that discussion?
Yes.
Okay. Next up then is the website refresh discussion.
So we've been talking about community engagement and trying to, you know, really get better information out there in a better manner. And if you're not aware, The state legislature passed a new law that required updates to websites for accessibility. We've taken care of the accessibility piece. However, in terms of looking at our website, it's basically a first generation style website that is very out of date, and it doesn't necessarily portray the town in the positive manner that we want to. You went through the process last year with Align Media to do the Discover Silt website. Right now we're operating 3 websites. We have the town's general website, the police department has their own website, and then we have the Discover Silt website. We really need to pull this all into one cohesive site. And to do that, we really should start thinking about engaging somebody that can help us build out a new website. And what that looks like, I don't have all the answers, but I do know that there are companies out there and there are communities out there that have, I wouldn't say they're wildly popular websites, but they're visited websites for all information for the community. And I think we could do a much better job of engaging the community by updating our website and really moving forward. And that includes, you know, I mean, I'll just give an example where I live. When there's a public hearing on a zoning issue in the community, they put a sign out there, there's a number to it, you hit the QR code, it takes you right to the website, and you can find out what that public hearing is about and whether it pertains to you or not. Those are the kind of things that help engage the public because the information is easy to get to and you don't have to go searching. And you don't have to watch, you know, an entire meeting to find out that this public hearing is occurring or
drive around the roundabout 4
Yeah.
times.
So you can read the sign? There's that too. But you know, and you know, staff has been talking about this, and we have some key considerations. You know, we want it accessible, we want it easy to navigate through, we want good information out there. I have seen community websites that you can't find anything on them because you don't speak the right vernacular, and everybody's language sometimes can be a little different. So we have to think about it. How does the general public look at what they're looking for and not use necessarily our terminology? You know, governments are notorious for alphabet soup. We have an acronym for everything. I can guarantee you that the vast majority of residents in the town don't know what the Vail Board is. I can tell you it's the Victims Assistance something or another.
Or they think it's in Vail, Colorado.
Yeah.
No, we know how to spell
Vail.
Vail. That way. We know how to spell Vail. But you know, those are the kind of things. And so this would likely be a 2025 initiative. We don't have any money budgeted for this year. We've done what we can do to bring our website in compliance where we need to be right now in terms of the accessibility issues. But we really need to think about a refresh across the board and then bring everything under one umbrella.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, why does the police department need their own webpage?
I think they built it simply because ours was just not, I mean, it really wasn't set up for them to have built out as much information as they wanted out there.
Okay.
And it's just a matter of just pulling it all back together.
Okay, that makes sense.
It may have been back then that the person that was running the town's website didn't want to add all, they wanted to have time to do all the police department's websites, so then they'd split them up and it got.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we're at this point sophisticated enough and we see the need that we really need one-stop shopping for somebody coming to our website to be able to find out the information, whether it's P&Z related, whether it's police department related, whether it's parks and recreation, whatever it may be, you know, whether it's, you know, putting in a complaint that we need the pothole filled or the garbage along this ditch needs to be cleaned up.
For everything.
Those types of things. We need to really have people going to our website as the portal for them to really access us.
And then there could be links on there to sign up for the Text.my.gov and other things like that as well.
Recreation.
There's all that and, you know, there's, and general news.
Yep.
Links, everything.
What do you think, Mr. Website Guy?
He's chomping at the bit.
Literally, since I started being involved with the town, I was like, please, for the love of all that is reasonable, update the website.
Well, no,
It's first of all, it's not ADA compliant. Not even close. But
There's a little button you can click on it, though, that covers us.
not really. I know, Chris, a long time ago, you mentioned like a document library. Why can't I just log in
Yeah.
and find the documents? I don't want to go through this page to that page to that page to find the document, then I have to download it. There's no search functionality. There's no FAQs. If you've tried to look at the site on your mobile phone, you will be even more disappointed than you were when you looked at it on your laptop.
Yeah. For the example of, oh, well, we dealt with this like 3 years ago. Okay, you can't go back to board meetings or P&Z meetings 3 years because there isn't any room on the website. It would be nice to have that
100%.
that's that kind of information.
Correct.
Especially for, us or citizens, to do research or,
Yeah, responsive design, integration with
Yeah.
social media, so that when you put something up on the website, Jim, a note or a newsletter or something, it can propagate to social media automatically. It's just
Yes.
scheduled, it just happens, those types of things.
Yep.
It needs a lot of improvements, but they're all doable. None of them are terribly technically difficult. It's just coming up with a list and prioritizing. And I'm happy to help in whatever ways that I can, because I badly want to see it improved.
I feel, as someone who's just been a citizen user of the website, my suggestion would be to, as a starting place, or maybe just a small first step before this giant overhaul, would just be the events page. To where some people's websites, you can click a button where you add it to your calendar. So Silt Cleanup. I would love to be able to
Yeah.
go on the Silt events page and see the Silt Cleanup and say add to Google Calendar, and it just goes right in, stuff like that. But that events page is huge, because then we could get, that's the one thing.
Suggestion.
That's the one thing that I actually have ever cared, like gone to the Silt website and really wanted information, was like, when is music in, Movie at the Park.
Well,
music,
and
okay.
ultimately, we want the website to be the repository of information. And we want people to go to the website
Find
when they have a question about something that's going on, and they're hopefully in a position where they're finding the information, like, the dollar store, information about that. Yeah.
And if you have the events page set up, you could share that to like your Facebook page, and then that spreads, and then people refer back to the web page.
But so we're gonna try to put together, we've had Community Development Director Centeno and I have had some meetings with organizations that do websites. We're kind of in the exploratory stage. Every website developer, they're ready to hit the ground running and want to go, and that's not the process that we need to go through. We need to go through a much longer process to really figure out what this is going to look like, what it's going to include, and what the budget's going to look like. And, from our perspective, it's got to be very easy for us to update and maintain. And it can't be a bunch of code that we have to be careful of, or the whole thing goes down. So we have to be very cautious from that perspective. But I envision that all our forms are online, the checklist processes for going through a request at the Planning and Zoning Committee is online, and it's clear, and you know what you're supposed to put together. Those are the kind of things that I would hope that a future website will have included. I mean, in the wintertime, I can tell you, I can look on my phone and find out where the plow truck is, and it's never in my subdivision. But I can find out where it is. I don't know that we have to go to that level of detail, but
I just think if it was more usable, it would just save staff time. Is a huge thing. I feel bad that I look for things on here, can't find them, and then I'm in here talking to somebody trying to find out Something very simple that normally you would think you would find clicking on 2 buttons. So I would like to,
So who would like to be involved? Mayor Pro Tem Hanrahan has already volunteered.
I have a bullet list, 17 items already.
There you go.
That's what he does.
I kind of gathered that from the way he was talking about it.
Simple, accessible, complete, and engaging, and translate in other modalities too, that people can share, save to their.
Well, I think the key is, a refresher so it, portrays what we want to be.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it's a brand refresh in a lot of
Yeah.
ways as well. It's shifting perception as well as usage. So that there's a creative element, there's a branding element, and then there are core technical competencies that it needs to have. But they all sort of interweave, and they would all be part of the RFP. These are the things we need.
Yep.
Does anyone know of a town website that's really good that they feel like is aspirational?
I can tell you that the Town of Castle Rock's website is not necessarily what I would, it's pretty good.
Oh.
It's pretty good, but it's not necessarily what I would want to emulate. We can probably come up with some that are pretty slick.
That's usually a good first step, is find 10 sites you like.
Right.
Yeah.
And
What things you like about
right,
it,
or
things
things
you
you
don't
like,
like
what do
about
they
them.
have in common? Okay, we'll pluck that from them, that's a great feature, I like that look, I like that menu.
Right.
Sort of amalgamate them all together into what our design and branding is gonna be.
And not
How do
to,
they categorize things?
yeah,
Things
and not
do.
to use a bad word, but the vast majority of people are gonna be looking at it on
We're gonna have a
this.
good mobile
yeah.
They're
version.
not
Yeah.
gonna be looking at it on
100%.
this.
It has to be mobile first, it has
Yeah.
to be responsive.
Because probably 90% of the views would come from people's phones at least, if not a higher.
Someone
number.
who's on their way to the party at the pavilion this Friday and was like, where is it? Let's go to the website. Oh, and there's the event, and now I can download it to my calendar, and there's the address, and I can tap on that, and it takes me to my map.
And I can invite my friends.
And I can share it with my friends.
Yep.
I don't have many friends, but I hear that's fun.
In real life.
Those are the functional aspects that are critical, and that's part of the initial RFP creation process. What does it need to look like? What features does it need to have? And not all of them will be done right away, but that's how you set up a plan. Next year, we're going to add this. And when you talk with the vendor, you let them know next year we're going to do these other things. So you set up a 5-year engagement versus a run and gun where they build it quick and then they're out the door and you're like, wait a minute, we don't know how to manage it.
Right.
You want some support?
Absolutely. But you structure it under the guise of we're going to continue to evolve the platform based on user feedback and our needs. We want to bring you in as a vendor for the long term, but here's what we need to do so.
Okay. We got a plan on that one.
You do.
Needs
Sounds
done.
like it. Yep.
And budget season's coming up, so,
Yes, it is.
okay. Next item on the agenda is the May 2024 financial report. Turns over to Treasurer Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So 42% of the year has elapsed. We are doing well with our sales tax. We are at 43.4% of what we thought we were going to get.
Page 48.
Still 2% lower than what we had accumulated this same time last year, but still ahead of what we had projected for this year. We are at nearly 50% in our use tax. It's not listed on this page, but we're at about 70% of our property tax. We're right in line with our trash fees, our wastewater, and our irrigation fees. For the percentage of what we anticipated, we are at 55% for our water and wastewater fees, with that increase that we did in January. And doing well on most of our expenses in line with where we should be, with the exception of the construction impact and the Conservation Trust Fund. And those are, we have just spent the money that we've allocated earlier in the year. And I'll answer any questions you may have.
The only question I have, Amy, would you say we are in line with the general fund revenues being at 42% of the year, lapsing at almost 2 million, but the budget amount was close to 6 million. Are we still expecting revenues to bring up to that budgeted amount?
So we're at 32.8% for that. I don't believe we're going to reach that because $900,000 of that is the GOCO grant that we were expecting to have reimbursed for the community center park. And then there was also 900,000 for the TAP grant for the pedestrian bridge, and I don't believe we're going to see all of that money this year either.
Okay, therefore those expenditures, they're also not gonna happen, so,
Correct.
okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, that's the only thing I have.
The long-term goal is perhaps to create a capital fund, so it doesn't skew the general fund when we have these large capital projects.
That makes sense.
But that's a long-term goal.
Okay. Any further questions?
The numbers look good.
Okay. Next up then is administrator and staff comments.
You had my report. I will tell you that last week, Trustee Poston, Treasurer Tucker, and myself were at the CML conference. It's always interesting going to a conference because they shove a lot of information down your brain in a short amount of time. I think we all probably, and Trustee Poston can comment as well, but I pulled out some good information. I think the one thing that I will highlight tonight is pickleball. I think our master plan for Community Park includes a couple of pickleball courts. And we heard from one community that unless the pickleball court is at least 250 feet from a residence, they don't allow it. And it's simply because of the noise. And it is an obtrusive noise. So that is something that we'll have to consider. Communities also looked at the perspective that if it's 250 feet up to 600 feet, that's the kind of the distance, that you're likely have to put in sound mitigation devices because of the noise. And it was just kind of an interesting conversation and kind of a wake up to say, ooh, maybe that's not the best location for a pickleball court. Doesn't mean that it's not needed in the community, just might not be the best location due to the sound. But there's all sorts of other things that I'll expound on in a written report.
Okay.
But that's all I have for this time.
Joe, you got anything for us tonight?
I'm good.
Okay. Sheila, Amy, anything?
I don't have anything.
I might add that I did have my deputy provide you with a report that kind of followed up on the Rislenda questions you had at the last meeting regarding signage and such. Staff has been out there, not only Lori, but the chief and fire marshal were out there just to make sure that everything was in compliance and satisfactory.
Oh, great,
Yes, thank you for that.
thank you.
Yeah, just all I have.
Okay. And I'm not sure who's on with us for the police department.
Lieutenant Grombach was on earlier, but I don't see that he is any longer.
Okay. All right.
I see his name. I just don't know if he's in the office.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, he's still logged into the meeting.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, there he is.
All right.
Oh, wait, he unmuted.
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. Next up then is updates from the board and board comments, and we'll start with Trustee Clausen.
I have a few questions, which I should ask during, staff reports. Do you have an anticipated start date for the Home Avenue project?
I have a call into Frontier this morning and I have not heard. I'm hoping that they get back with me
Okay,
before the end of this week.
all right. Well, thanks. Administrator Mann mentioned there's problems with the crosswalk at the post office.
Yeah, CDOT, the length of the crosswalk from the north to the south is of such a distance that we would need to shrink the size of the road by eliminating lanes for them to put a crosswalk in, for them to allow us to put a crosswalk. So it's not as simple as just striping and away we go and putting up some flashing lights. So we're still, Director Lundin and myself are still needing to work with CDOT to see what that might look like.
Oh, okay.
Wasn't there one time about putting an island in there?
Well, that's what they're talking about. You'd have to take out some of the right-hand turn lanes into the trade center.
Oh, that's what, okay.
And the XL lane, and then put islands in, so you'd have to narrow the road.
Oh, okay,
and
that's what you're
possibly
talking about.
Slow down the speed limit also.
That makes it difficult, yeah.
Yeah, and so the cost of doing that is significantly
Gone up
different.
like everything else, yeah.
Yeah.
And any word on the building inspector position?
We are having an individual shadow our current building inspector to see if that individual might be interested in the job. And it just, so we'll see whether anything comes of that, but we have a whole list of front range building inspector shops to contact as well to see if we can poach somebody, because on occasion, somebody wants to leave the front range and move into the much more nicer mountains.
Yeah, on occasion.
On occasion.
Let's see. Do we know anything about I forget the correct term, but the electric gas station that's going to be by the Holiday Inn Express?
I have heard nothing. I don't know if Director Centeno is still on the line that she could comment, but I have not had any additional contact about whether they're anywhere closer to building the charging station.
I am still on the line. The last time that they have been in contact with us was about a month and a half ago, that they were asking a couple engineering questions, but we have not heard anything additional from them.
Okay. All right, thank you. And I guess I just want to welcome Trustee Engelhardt to the board. That's everything I have.
Okay, Trustee Seifert?
I guess for Nicole, or what happened to that, there was that subdivision or that development going in west of town on this side between Highway Feed and that insulation company? There was that sign's been up there forever.
Oh, yeah, it used to be Main Street Plaza.
Yeah,
Now
whatever happened to that?
Somebody new purchased it and was looking to develop it, was really excited about it, put the signs up, and then we have not heard anything additional from them.
Okay.
I know at one point they were wanting to split the development up and come back in front of the board for a PUD amendment. So I don't know if they're still working on that, but I've reached out to them a couple of times with no response back as well.
Oh, okay. All righty, and then just welcome Kimberly to the team. That's about all I have.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Just a question for any updates on the broadband. When is it getting lit up?
No idea.
So still no word from Garfield County on
No. I don't even have a status on who the ISPs are. We held the interviews, and I'm not sure that anything has happened since then, but I can follow up.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know. As we discussed earlier, all those
Yes.
initiatives are dependent on actually having internet connectivity.
Yep.
That's it for me. Welcome, Kim.
Trustee Poston?
Okay, in attendance to the Colorado Municipal League Conference, I have specific details on Budget 101 presentation that we had, and then I attended also the affordable housing breakout session, where I have a lot specifics that I've made notes of, that I feel that it'll be more effective to speak as those contents come into place within the board like it did today. It's great to be out there participating on those meetings and events because you get a perspective on other things that communities are doing that are being effective. And they'll bring out community and they'll say how they are running their fund, how they are running their financial reports like we did with the Golden. And they gave us great pointers, some of it that I brought it up when we were talking budget tonight. So anytime that we can be out there getting other people's perspective on leadership that's working and they're coming up with effective ways to address issues that we are being faced with and we are being exposed to those solutions, that's of an incredible, which I don't like the word incredible, it's invaluable. I don't like invaluable either. It's a great value. I like positive reinforcing words. There you go. I don't know, it's just my thing. So it's of great value because then we are able to just come in back to the board and open up that perspective and allow for new ideas to also be implemented for our town of Silt. It is definitely time away. It would have been better, not to have driven all the way, and it is an effort, but it's an effort that I'm happy that I was able to make myself available to attend. I hope to continue creating value within the board and bringing those initiatives back here when we are having those discussions. And it's great to see other municipalities succeeding with their efforts too, and it just proves to us that yes, it's possible. I want to thank everybody in the board for being awesome, every single member and town staff. Thank you for everything and for all that you guys do. And welcome, Kim. And we hope to have all of your fresh ideas and excitement and have all that, positive perspective and creative mindset that I know you bring it to the board. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Okay, Trustee
my turn.
Engelhardt, it is your turn. First time.
I don't have any questions today. I think I have a lot of reading to do. I plan to read the stuff and get educated, and then I'll probably have a ton of questions. So, but I'm happy to be here, and thank you guys all for being very nice.
Okay.
Welcome me.
Trustee Britt.
The first concert of the season is this Friday, so everybody can make sure you get out there. If you're able to attend, they're a lot of fun. Also, again, with the community stuff, there's the horseshoe pits up there. I'm sure if people want to throw them, there will be people pitching up there during that time as well. And then just watering, make sure you know when your water site schedules are and all that kind of stuff. Try to follow that. And again, with kids, schools out and everything else, there's more kids and more people out and about. So just be careful and watch your speeds.
Okay. I just had one thing for Joe. I know it's short notice, but is there any way we can get them to spray for mosquitoes before the concert on Friday?
Yes,
Okay.
we usually do that the morning.
The morning of. Okay. And then if we can get it set up to spray before the movie that's coming up also?
Yes.
Veterans Park? Okay. I know we missed that a couple times last year. Is what it's been this week. It's gonna be.
Yeah.
It's gonna be Mosquito City, so. And then the other thing I had is and I don't remember the name of the company, but the marble company that's still supposed to have all their stone behind a fence. I think we need to make a stop by
We'll get code compliance on that.
and see, because that was one of our major things to let them continue to operate.
Okay.
And they're not following that, so. And then maybe you guys might have talked about this at the meetings that I missed, but the Anderson property across the street.
That'll be on the agenda at your next meeting for a discussion.
Perfect.
We will be holding an executive session to talk a little bit about that.
Okay. And that's all I've got. Welcome, Trustee Engelhardt. Yep.
And I have a question. Is there such a thing as hockey game dry field that you can use roller blades. I've seen people
Yes.
using the tennis court just as an idea for the community park. I've seen them like using that for that purpose of, playing. So maybe it could be like a different idea for that particular space that wouldn't be pickleball, but since I've literally have seen the use for it, that perhaps if we could include that in planning could be some
Well,
kind of suggestion.
and that's part of the community outreach that we have to do. Part of the GOCO grant is that we cannot have necessarily a preconceived notion
Okay,
of
got
what the
it.
park's gotta look like. We have to get the community feedback to do the final design of what the park's gonna look like.
So to get feedback, so we don't show it's
I think we have to show them something that, hey, we're gonna do something in the park, this is a concept, but we can't have, this is what we're going to do. Give us your feedback. It's more of a, what would you like to see in the park?
got it.
Okay. Other than that, I think we're done. So next item on the agenda is adjournment.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by trustee Seifert to adjourn the meeting, seconded by trustee Britnall. All's in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Get home safely.